Welcome to the Moms I Know with Sheila Walsh-Denton and Maria Anderson-Farner. Two moms on a mission to reclaim childhood and take you from surviving to thriving on your parenting journey.
Hi, this is Sheila.
And this is Maria.
And we want to welcome you to
The Moms I Know.
So today we are going to be talking about sleep.
Mm.
And I have a quote that is anonymous. Your future depends on your dreams. So go to sleep. Keeping it short and simple.
Perfect. Oh, it's so true. With children, how often do we want to say, so just go to sleep?
Right. I think we were talking about earlier about that popular children's book,
Yeah.
Go the bleep to sleep.
So in our less patient moments, we'll do whatever to get our children to just relax and go to sleep. But really, sleep is so incredibly important. It's important for us as parents. It's important for the children. It's the time when so much is going on. So we have so many different ways of sort of setting the stage for sleep. But I wanted a bit of a discussion about, the importance of sleep and what is going on chemically, biologically when we're sleeping.
Right. Well, when we sleep, it's our body's time to repair. So that's why we have what's called a circadian rhythm, where our body really works with the sun and darkness, right? And so when we wake up in the morning naturally with natural light, then we are going to be getting a better start. And if we go to bed when the light naturally goes down, we will be getting that sleep where we will be the most productive.
And we also see the results of not enough sleep. And I think that in general here in the United States, we're a sleep-deprived country.
Culture, yeah.
And culture, yes. And we look at all of the different things that are coming up, the chronic problems that are coming up from lack of sleep. And when you look at just health-wise, that's so incredibly important, but also in terms of the stress and different issues that come up around that lack of sleep. And so when we're talking about our children, though, we obviously want what is healthiest for them. And then as parents, so that we're our best, we need to get the sleep that we need so that we have the patience to be dealing with all of the different things that come our way. And whether we're at home with our children or whether we're working and balancing all of these different things, sleep is so, so critical. And so we both have come to learn a lot about creating sort of a rhythm around sleep so that we can understand its importance. And I know when I was younger, I used to kind of think, well, wait a minute, that's a third of my life. I don't want to waste it sleeping. But if we don't take that time to sleep, it's going to affect every aspect of our life. So we really have to look at that sleep as such a vital, important part of our life. And
Exactly.
and also children need way more than adults. And so I think that we really underestimate how much sleep a child needs
as high schoolers. I know, there's the research done. I don't have the research right in front of me, but the research is done where high schoolers actually need more sleep in the morning, where, their brains are still processing. And so making sure actually that they get to bed. I know some schools have been very progressive and really taking on this research and doing something about it. And I want to just do a shout out for my son's school that basically on Fridays, they have a 9 o'clock start time.
Nice.
Because of that, and it is, they are more productive. But there are some schools in our county that I know that are starting to, despite the zero period or whatever that sometimes starts at 7:15 for sports or whatever like that, some schools actually do start at 7:45 for younger kids.
Not to mention the before school sports that happen. So I know some families where they're getting up super early, and then also the children have so much homework that they're staying up late. And then we of course talked about social media and technology and all of that and how that's affecting.
So there are all these variables that can contribute to the lack of sleep. And so let's just talk about those. We have the blue light, and which is the social media, and we have homework, right? We have just the sports, the athletics that are taking up a ton of time for our children because everybody wants to be a star and get a scholarship. Everybody wants to, to be number one. And then there's familial, social stressors. And, and it's that stress that when it keeps on coming at you, it disrupts your whole system. It's going to disrupt your sleep because our cortisol is highest in the morning. And so that's what gets us out of bed. As we go on through the day, it naturally tapers off like when the sun is setting. However, when we are stressed because of those variables, circumstances, including EMF, exposure, then our body sometimes gets a second wind around the evening time, or even I do have a night owl. My middle child likes to stay up late, and it's because she has, I think, other stressors in her life that she's going to be a freshman, so we are trying to get a hold of it, but the awareness is the first part.
Yeah. So I'm glad that your kid's school is actually addressing this, because I just look at so much of this that, the research is the research on all of the stress, the research on how children learn and all of that is there. So when we can look at how important establishing a really healthy sleep pattern is, of course, we want to start that young too. And, so whether we're talking about teenagers or very young children, where their sleep patterns are very different, we have to be looking at how do you as a family prioritize, how do you create a stage for whatever age your children are, that they're going to be knowing what that pattern is. And so we look at the different types of things that we can do to enhance a really good night's sleep. And so we've talked a little bit about the things that are making it difficult, but how do we then look at what we can do? And so in our family, one of the things we really, really looked at, and I think this is a very Waldorf-inspired thing too, is this rhythm. And that when we have a set pattern, that rhythm takes the place of discipline. And so, one of the most important things is that we're eating together as a family, hopefully at an earlier hour, but I also know that, that can change depending upon different family situations. But I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition, or actually have you talk a little bit about, there's so much information out there about kind of what is the best way to eat dinner in terms of, is it heavier?
Well, it's interesting
you
say that. Yeah. You really ideally want to have your heaviest meal in the middle of the day, similar to other cultures around the world that, they have that meal in the middle of the day, then the nap afterwards. That is actually really, really healthy for you, and so you do want to have your main meal or, midday. However, in our culture, that's not really done as much, and so I would say on the earlier side, 5, 6 o'clock, I would say not eating past 7, trying to, I know I grew up with dessert, often Jell-O, pudding sort of things, right? Kind of processed foods. However, if I would have a recommendation, I would say, no sugar after 7, no sugar at all. But sometimes, that's, and then you have to also keep your flow and have room for special occasions.
For special occasions, right? But on a regular
basis, I would say to ideally eat between 5 and 6, and like at least before 7.
Right. So a lighter meal or on the earlier side, no sugar.
And that depending though, if you have issues that where hypoglycemic, something like that, you might have to eat a little bit more fat right before you go to bed, with almonds or something like that. Another thing that helps with melatonin production is tart cherry juice. And so one thing I have made for my middle child is gummies, those gelatin gummies. Made those with tart cherry juice to help, because tart cherry juice does have natural melatonin, which, some people use that to supplement with. And I say supplement very short term with that. You do not want to make your body lazy.
Right, dependent
on that, because once you start taking it and you are counting on it, when it's not there, your body's going to be really messed up. So definitely for children, I know doctors that are prescribing that for children, and that's not okay.
So that nutrition is key always when we look at that. So really looking at that dinner hour, and of course we've talked about sort of the ritual of family dinners together. And then for our family, we always had bath, and that was because we live out in the country. The kids were roaming all over the place, and there were all kinds of critters out there as well. So that bath time was a calming time. A little lavender in the bath can be really lovely, and just they have that routine. And then we always had our story time and then our bedtime. And so that ritual, even if we were in different places, we could still have meal time, bath time, story time, bedtime. And so that pattern is established for them. Nowadays, we have so many other things that are coming up. And so there were a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, that blue light piece and how detrimental that is. And so, for all of us, it's recommended that we have no screens at all for at least 2 hours before bedtime. And for children, I would say, just that there doesn't need to be screen time in the evening whatsoever. As they become teenagers, they have other responsibilities and things like that with school.
When you have teenagers, you're going to hear that, the teacher has this on there. They're talking with their friends. I mean, this is what I'm getting, every day with my children on their screens. And it is such a challenge. And I am constantly looking for ideas of things to do. We're going to have a family meeting tonight because tomorrow is my son's first day of school to talk about this. Because, there are things that we do. We make sure that our children turn in their phones at 10 o'clock, that they're off because they've have been able to correspond with their friends about homework, because that's something we hear a lot about is, I'm checking homework or something like that. However, at this family meeting tonight, I'm wanting to bring that down a little bit earlier. I'm saying, can we work, how's this feel? Maybe 9 o'clock. But they check their phones in. We turn off our wireless. We turn off everything so that we have no EMFs in our house for sleeping. Because sometimes, parents are like, my teens aren't sleeping. Well, because they're sleeping with their phone. They're using their phone as an alarm clock. Mm-hmm. Please do not do that. There are apps, and I'm not sure specifically which app, but you can do it so simply as just turning down on your phone the dim, from the bright to the dim. Type thing like that. There's also what are called blue blocker glasses. So you can take a look at those, which are sometimes with an orange or yellow lens, and that helps mitigate the brightness coming. So I got like a family set of those. They worked for a little bit, but now they're like lost throughout the house.
Well, so for those of you with teenagers, these are really important things, because I'm hearing about teenagers that they're not even sleeping because they're on social media all night long. They don't want to miss a thing. And so, of course, that's wreaking havoc with their health, as well as being such a psychological...
It's an addiction.
Yeah. So we look at this, and so we want to help our children establish healthy rhythms. So definitely with the teens, establishing that no screens. Turning the Wi-Fi off at night is one of the most important things we can all do. There's more and more research coming in about how detrimental this electromagnetic frequency is for us. And so it's really important that if you have to have it on during the day, at least during our sleep hours, that we have it off so that we can get a more restful sleep. The idea of this window of time with very young children, especially, I see this with toddlers and sort of early childhood, the kids that get revved up, if we don't catch that window of their bedtime, there's this natural progression that Sheila was talking about with the circadian rhythms, where the children are ready for sleep. And if we miss that window, then they get that second wind, that proverbial second wind. And I've really seen the kids get revved up, and then it's harder and harder to get them to fall asleep. And so we want to look at that bedtime. And, every child is going to be a little bit different, and every family is going to be a little bit different. But looking at what works best so that they're truly getting, especially for the young children, that they're getting 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. We need that 8 hours of sleep a night at least, but our children need far more. So setting those bedtimes earlier so that they're really getting that good quality sleep. I've heard some people say it's the hours before midnight that are the most important as well.
So between 10 and 12, yeah, and that's for detoxification.
Right.
Actually, like between 10 and 2, super important. So that's why for us, it's our hard line for our teenagers that they have to be in bed by 10. Even though they might have homework, it's like rather them get up early in the morning to do it than do it late at night.
Yes. So it's easier said than done.
Totally.
But we really want to look at this as, creating these lifelong healthy patterns. So then the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I think both of our families do things slightly differently, but this idea of rhythm and ritual. And so, we had the dinner time, the bath time, the story time, the bedtime. And bedtime sometimes took, a little extra story, or sometimes there would be a little song. There were periods of time where we had the rhyme elves that came to visit during the middle of the night. And so the children were excited to go to sleep so that the rhyme elves could come and leave them a little rhyme and a little picture during the day. And that went on for quite a while. But, there's different things that you can do in the evening, whether you're saying prayers or setting intention, or you have a little saying that your family does, whether you light a little candle or whether there's a special nightlight. I've seen some families have, beautiful special nightlights, a special stuffed animal that the child cuddles with, different little things that we can say, but creating that ritual or that rhythm every evening so the children know there's been this progression, there's been the things that have been said that need to be said. They've had the time to tell you about their day, that they've had the time to say their little something. And then it's a time to really rest and sleep. And so when we set that pattern, when we set that rhythm up, then the children just can live into that, and it stops being such a struggle. And also then we have a little bit of time for ourselves before we start our own bedtime ritual.
Exactly. I think sometimes, though, it gets quite challenging. I think around, the 4 to 7 age, where the kids, I don't know if they get the overtired piece, but they keep getting up and they're asking for water, or they're, after you've done the whole ritual and everything. And for those pieces, I just say that that's when if your self-care is in check, in the sense that, how are you responding to that? Because there is a need of theirs it's not being satisfied. So what can you do? And sometimes people want to shut the door, and sometimes that might work. Sometimes those parameters might work, but other times it's really an opportunity to just be, to give your child that space, which is not, I know at times it was not always easy for me. However, now sometimes I look at it like what a gift I have to be with my child at this time.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because yes, that 4 to 7, and sometimes it's a little earlier, and sometimes a little later in ages, and sometimes things come back up. They've been sleeping great for years, and then something happens, and they're going through these patterns. So really looking at that self-care is so important. I was just reading somebody's post the other day, and they were talking about both the children weren't sleeping right now, and everybody was sleep deprived. And just know that, yes, those times happen.
Yeah.
And
they go. It's just like in the beginning when you're trying to sleep with your brand new baby, or trying to, however you do it, it's not always going to be what you think and what you expect. So it's really just making sure it's a check into your own self-care, like I said, and then giving the space, because this too shall pass.
Yes, and it does. And when you can also bring in a little bit of assistance, maybe, if there's 2 parents in the family, that you can trade off a little bit, so that you can catch up, so that you can put those deposits in the sleep bank. So when our children were young, my husband quite often on a Saturday morning would take them early so that I could get a little extra sleep. And so, however you can arrange it, even if you have to ask a friend to come and help out so that you can get some extra naps, especially when the children are very young. I see so many new moms just trying to do it all. And trying to keep up with everything, and everybody suffers with that. Yeah,
exactly. So, you definitely have to communicate with your partner if you have one, or that's when you go and use your village where what you need, because everybody needs sleep. The other thing that can help sometimes with sleep is essential oils. Properly applied, making sure that you don't over apply. Less is more.
And using really high quality essential oils. They're all over the place now, so make sure you're getting a really high quality source. But lavender is wonderful, Roman chamomile. There's a lot of different blends out there that can be really beneficial. That's also a little part of the ritual. Our children love having a little bit rubbed on their feet every night. And I've seen even very young babies put up their feet at bedtime because they know they want that.
I do always try to just maybe do like a lavender or frankincense on the spine. Just to center them. It really helps.
Yeah, so nice. And they smell wonderful. The children associate those scents with bedtime, and it's part of that calming of the nervous system. Lavender actually lowers the cortisol, and so just wonderful. So lots of ideas here for things that you can do. But again, that whole concept of patterns and rituals and rhythm really helps. And we know it's difficult, and we also know how important it is.
Yep. So, good luck with your sleep.
Until next time.
We'll talk to you later on The Moms I Know.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us today for The Moms I Know. To learn more about Sheila and her online program, The Mom Map, visit purplebeetnutrition.com. For Maria's monthly blog and to learn more about her group programs and retreats, visit soquelessentials.com. That's SOQUEL essentials.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Moms I Know. Until next week, have a joyful family journey.